Hi everybody, welcome back to Algebra e-learning with Miss Imrie. We are on day 2 of our e-learning with factoring. So today we're going to go ahead and continue talking about how to find a greatest common factor. Yesterday we introduced it, we got through about 3 problems. If you look at our calendar today, Tuesday, April 7th, we see that we're still talking about greatest common factor, but then also we have that little star today, which means we have a graded assignment. If you have not yet been onto the tiny URL for our assignments or to get access to anything that you might have missed, the tiny URL is listed here for you. My email is here and my phone number is also here if you need to contact me with any questions. So let's start out by talking about what is due today. We saw on the calendar that we have a graded assignment. Yesterday, we got to start looking at how to find greatest common factor with factoring. I asked that you get started on numbers 2, 4, and 6 for your assignment. And so if you see on our calendar, we have that assignment that's due today. What you need to finish are problems 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So that's 6 problems. We started them yesterday. You might say, but Miss Imrie, we're not in class. How do I submit these problems? So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. On a piece of lined paper, you've already got that started with your notes from yesterday. I'm going to ask that you copy the problems and their answers that you work out on a piece of lined paper. You're going to take a picture of that lined paper and you're going to email it to me at this email address. If you don't understand these directions, please shoot me a text on my Google Voice number, send me an email to ask me. If you are confused, these problems 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12 are copied on lined paper. You solve them by factoring that greatest common factor, and they are due in my inbox with a picture in my email by the end of the day today. So let's review what we talked about yesterday, and then I will upload this video so you have access to it, but you also can jump into my Zoom if you want to work through any of these problems. It is due today, so that Friday, when you do your exit ticket, if you get any wrong, you know how many points you're trying to earn back on your assignment. So let's go ahead and review what we talked about yesterday with our greatest common factor. We yesterday defined greatest common factor as the term or number or variables that are shared by the terms in our polynomial or in our expression. In order to find that greatest common factor, we need to answer these 2 questions. 1, is there a number that our terms share? Remember, when we're talking about terms, we are just thinking about our coefficient and our variable. So 7y is a term here, and -7 is also a term. It doesn't have to have a variable. The second question is there a letter that they share? What we need to do is we need to find those things that they share. We need to take them out of that expression, and then we need to simplify and see what's left. So we did 1, 3, and 5 together yesterday. If you're still stuck on these examples, please feel free to jump in today to my Zoom to ask. But let's go ahead and let's look at number 7. Oops, sorry, y'all. Let's look at number 7, 9, and 11. Today's lesson will be a little bit shorter so that you have enough time to finish this assignment. So for number 7, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with question number 1, excuse me. Is there a number that our 2 terms share? So I see my first term is 21CD, and my second term is -3D. So first, is there a number that they share? And I see in this problem, I have 21 and -3. I know that -3 goes into -3. And I also know that -3 can go into 21. So let's go ahead and start with the first number that they share, which is -3. I also then see that I have to answer problem number 2. Is there a letter that they share? And I see that there is a letter C in my first term, and there is no C in my second term, so they don't share a C, but there is a D in my first and my second term, so I can take a D out of both of my terms. So when I do that, taking it out of my term means I need to go ahead and I need to divide by that common factor, that -3D in both terms. So I'm going to divide by -3 excuse my sloppy handwriting here, d in my first term and negative 3d in my second term. So what is that going to leave me with? That is going to leave me, when I do that division, I am going to be left in my first term. 21 divided by negative 3 leaves me with negative 7. CD divided by D is just going to leave me that C. My D's are going to go ahead and cancel. So if I go ahead and maybe pick another color to show that those D's are going to cancel out in both my first and my second term. The next part of my expression is negative 3D divided by negative 3D. It's not going to leave me with 0. Everything doesn't completely cancel out, so I know I'm going to be left with a positive 1. So this is my factored form of my first expression. Let's do the same thing with our second problem here. We're going to find what our common factor is, what number both of our terms share first. So I see a 15a squared b and a negative 30ab. So what number do they both share? What can I divide both of those terms by? I know I can divide both of them by 15 because 15 goes into 15 and 15 goes into 30. I'm looking for the biggest number, that greatest factor. So here I'm going to have 15 that they both share. And then I'm going to think about, is there a letter that they share? Well, I have an a squared, a b, and an a and a b. So I see there is an a in both of my terms, but I see that the biggest a that they both share is just a to the first power. So I'm only going to write and take out one a because I see that both of them share one a, but they don't both have an a squared. And I also see that they both have a b, so I'm going to take a b out of both of them as well. So in order to find now what I have left, let's get a color that we can actually see. I'm going to divide both of my terms by that greatest common factor of my 15ab. And the same thing on this side, I divide by my 15ab. Again, excuse my sloppy handwriting here, but when I do that, and I come back to my expression, 15a squared b divided by 15ab, I know that some things are going to cancel out. I know my 15s are going to cancel out and my b's are going to cancel, but now I need to follow those exponent rules. A squared divided by a to the first power. I'm going to subtract those exponents. So I am going to be left with just, oops, let's get back into our actual problem here. I'm going to be left with just an a because a squared minus a to the first leaves me with a. And then I'm going to do 30 divided by 15, which is going to give me 2. My a and my b are going to cancel out. And so I have my final answer here of 15ab times a minus 2 in parentheses. Remember, we are copying everything in this yellow box. For those of you that were not here yesterday, we are copying everything in our yellow box onto just our line sheet of paper so that we have this to reference as we go through and do our own problems later. Our last problem asks us just to think about letters. So is there a number that any of our terms share in number 11? No, so there's nothing to take out in terms of numbers, but I do see that both of them share the letter A. So I know I can take an A out of both of my terms. So when I do that, I'm going to divide, again in a color that we can see. Sorry guys. We're going to divide both of my terms by my common factor, that letter or number or letter in numbers that they both share. Following my rules of my exponents, I know that my A's are going to cancel here and here, but I'm not going to be fooled because I remember that there's a negative 1 in front of my letter. So when I go ahead and simplify this, when I divide everything through, I am going to be left with just a b in my first expression and a negative 1 in my second because the a's are going to cancel, leaving me the b minus 1. Again, you should have these copied on that lined paper. And this is a last reminder for today that 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12 are going to be done on lined paper. You're taking a picture of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12, and you are going to email them to me. Let me go back to this screen so that you don't forget. The problems, if you don't have them all copied here, I'm going to leave this up for a minute so you can get them copied, are also available on that tiny URL link if you need them. And remembering, you cannot get graded and you cannot get credit for this assignment if you don't email it to me, because I have no way of knowing that you did it or you did it correctly if you don't email it to me. Tomorrow, we're going to be moving on to a different topic. So I want you to make sure that if you have any questions on greatest common factor, you jump into my Zoom. If you're feeling good about it and you've turned in your assignment, you are all good to go for today. Have a great rest of your day. Again, I'll leave this up for about 20 more seconds so you can copy these down if you need to. Otherwise, they are available on the tiny URL link. Thanks for working hard. Please reach out if you need anything. I miss you all and hope that we are back at school very soon.